Hi, I'm Marc Randolph, co-founder of Netflix and 6 other companies. Over the years, I've heard that will never work thousands of times, but I've learned there are things we all can do to increase the chances that they will. So join me for That Will Never Work. Hey everybody, and welcome to That Will Never Work. You know, I never thought I'd describe a show as delicious, but today I will, thanks to my guest, Krystina Fisher, the CEO of Portland, Maine-based The Messy Cookie. It is a home cookie decorating team building company where she mails you a box with cookies you decorate at home. It's simple, but she's seen remarkable success with customers like eBay, Wayfair, Apple, all engaging. But while they buy once, they're not buying again. So how does Krystina convert a product into a brand? And that's what I'll be talking about today. Welcome to That Will Never Work. I'm actually really excited to chat with you because in the mail just this morning, I got this beautiful little gift box, cookies with frosting, with all kinds of little accessories. And I know it has something to do with your business, but I'm really eager to hear what it is. And then more importantly, I'm kind of curious what it is that you might be struggling with. So what am I dealing with here, Krystina?
Well, thank you so much, first of all, for inviting me on, Marc. This is truly an honor to be here. But yeah, I'm so glad that you enjoyed the box that you received today. So essentially, The Messy Cookie is my business that is a virtual team building event provider and custom cookie bake shop. Basically, if you will, back in 2018, I started decorating cookies for fun and turned it into a little bit of a side business. But I actually have a background as a sommelier giving wine tastings. And I love people and I love hanging with people and engaging them. And it was only a matter of time before I decided to introduce cookie decorating through the world of cookie ice nights to my clients. And when the pandemic hit, Wayfair reached out to see if I would do a virtual event with them. And it has been running ever since.
So let me make sure I have this right. So this is basically, I'm saying, okay, gosh, I want to do a team building event, but my team is scattered all over the place. And so we can't do trust falls and we can't do all those sort of things. What can we do? And Messy Cookie to the rescue. You send one of these boxes, these little boxes about a foot square, with cookies and frosting, and then everybody gets on Zoom together and frosts.
Yes, that is it. You really have it in a nutshell. It's not exactly rocket science, but people love it, especially adults, and it is so much fun. So essentially I bake all of the sugar cookies and I have sourced a shelf-stable buttercream frosting, which that took a couple years to figure out the right way. But I have worked with companies that have team members. Oh my gosh, I just shipped a couple kits to Tel Aviv, but all across the world, probably about 10 to 15 different countries now. We hang out on Zoom or Google Hangout, Google Meet, whatever, and just have a really good time. And I walk everybody through it. Now, I do want to mention that one of my favorite things is that depending on the context of your team, like some teams are kind of new to meeting each other or a little more reserved. They want more of like a class structure, which is kind of how it all started. But lately, I have introduced a competition, and that has been going wild. If you notice, you should have a crown in that kit as well, in an envelope.
Is it in this little pink envelope that very conspicuously says, "Do not open"? Is that the one you're talking about?
Okay. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
I behave myself and I listen to instructions.
Absolutely. And we can dive into that later. But I just wanted to mention that I think the competition style has become very popular in the last couple months.
Well, I've got to say, you mentioned something that made me wish I had had you on 2 or 3 years ago. Because if this had been a wine tasting, now that would be up my alley. And in terms of break the ice events, here's my genius tip for you. You combine the two. Maybe vodka tasting and cookie decorating. Genius. All
That's
right.
actually a really great idea to combine wine tasting with cookies. I don't know why I haven't done it myself.
Or maybe you could formulate the frosting. Okay, that's my mic drop moment. But we're here to talk about you, Krystina, because obviously, are you bumping into some problems, or what can I help you with?
Well, thank you. I actually want to assure that I wouldn't say it's problems that I'm finding my way into, but I am struggling with kind of some mental blocks, if you will. So I have a bit of a background in marketing as well. And so I'm very comfortable in the B2C marketing space. Like if you ordered a dozen custom cookies for your daughter's, 30th birthday, I feel comfortable marketing to you all day long, building a relationship with you. But I'm finding that in this B2B space where, believe it or not, it's not HR who's reaching out to me. It is a director of a team of engineers, right? It's these people who are given budgets from their higher companies, the powers that be. And, planning an event is not actually like the biggest thing on their list. So I don't know how to feel like I have permission to build more of a relationship with them, market that to them. We all know that retaining a client is much less expensive than getting new ones. And while I've had a handful of repeat clients, I'm just trying to see if you have ideas on ways that I can better that relationship.
Well, what you're talking about is kind of this classic phase change that most companies have to go through, or certainly ones who start out the way you are, where you have a product and all of a sudden the product is taking off. But usually a product is not a company, or more specifically, a product is not a brand. So the thing that you're struggling with, which you describe as how do I convert a one-time purchase into a relationship, could perhaps be better thought of as how do I convert a product into a brand? And the quick answer to that is you either have to figure out some way to have your product scale across multiple circumstances. In other words, have it be something that someone is willing to do over and over again. So, for example, had you stuck with the wine tasting business, wine tasting, in fact, is a scalable business because it isn't like you taste wine once and you're done. Well, no, this month we're tasting Chardonnay. Next month we're going to taste Bordeaux. Now we're going to taste different, all different varietals from the same vineyard. In other words, it's almost infinite. You could go to a wine tasting every single week for your entire life and never get to the bottom of it. So the trick is here, how do you figure out a product which has someone who wants to do it more than once? Or how do you expand your product line? And unfortunately, I think you're going to have to choose one of those two paths to bring the company down. So I don't mean bring it down. I mean to bring it forward. In other words, let's start with the second scenario. You have seen the types of groups that have ordered this. I mean, have you ever thought to yourself what else they might want that you might be able to deliver?
So, yes.
As a matter of fact.
Yes. I have thought of it. So the wine tasting business that I was a part of, I worked for another company. And so that being said, however, I did have another business before this, and something that I'm trying to do this time around is I'm trying to make sure I don't just see a cool idea and change my direction, right? But that being said, as far as offering other styles of events, that's actually why I got into offering the competition, right? That being said, I have not considered offering like other styles of team building events, but I do think that it would be very possible. I have a business plan laid out where the goal is really to hire more cookie guides. I have an employee right now, and that's kind of her direction that she wants to go. But with that, the idea of offering more products as well. I am investing in a tool that will cut cookie decorating time down considerably. And so this machine will enable it so that I can produce decorated cookies at just such a higher capacity, just such a higher scale without like putting hours into every single set. So I'm kind of thinking that one of the directions that it might be worth to go is, okay, let's say they want to have a conversation because they're looking for a team building event. But can I sit down, on a call with these prospects and really use that discovery call to find out other ways that they try to engage with their team members? Like, what do they do for team birthdays? What do they do for, and not to say, oh, let's do a cookie party for everyone, right? Not necessarily that, but can I send out a dozen branded cookies on the first of each month to all of their employees with birthdays that month, or even just one cookie, right?
All right, I'm gonna stop you for a second. Mm-hmm. Okay, here's what I want you to think about. What kind of a company are you? And I don't want to necessarily know what kind of company you think you are. What kind of a company do you think your customers think you are? What are they buying? And don't say cookies.
I'm not delivering cookies. They think of me as an experience. They think of me as a break from reality, as a break from the grind of 50 to 60 hour work weeks that their employees are undoubtedly pulling.
Well, see, that's the key thing here. Is reason I stopped you a few moments ago is because you were going down how to make the cookie experience different or better. And yes, of course you should be thinking about that, but that's a different thing than what you need to be doing in order to say, how do I turn this from a product into a brand? And to turn it from a product into a brand, you have to understand in your heart what that brand promise is. And the definition you just gave me was pretty good. We basically are a distraction from real life. We allow you to, for 15 minutes, take your mind off the business problems and just have fun with your coworkers. And what you want is for companies all over the world, when they think, I really would love to have some distraction, to turn to you, to come to your website and browse all the different ways that you've designed for them to do it. As opposed to thinking, we need a cookie decorating company. And you'll be the first one they choose for that, but they're only going to choose that once, because then the next time they're going to want to go with the treasure hunt, and then they're going to want to go with the fill in the blank. And I think it's your job to begin to say, what are those other categories of experiences that I can offer? But that's the generic advice. What you have to do, and this is the clever part, and this is what will make the business thrive or not, is you have to look at the adjacencies, which is ask yourself, for someone who has already bought a cookie experience, knowing that they actually went for a cookie experience, what could I offer them which is the most likely one that they'll step into? In other words, rather than saying we're going to offer bespoke scavenger hunts, maybe, but those aren't naturally connected. You can't jump from one to the other naturally. Whereas there might, wine tasting, a legality aside, so I know there's all kinds of questionable things about that, but there's a reasonable adjacency in that it's this group experience of trying something. But that's the clever part, is looking at things that you could be good at, looking at things that the customers will give you permission to do. And then where it gets really interesting is once you have 2 or 3 of these, is change the order. Go, it's really hard to sell cookies because no one knows what the hell I'm talking about, but I'll start off by selling this. And then from there it goes to cookies. Or cookies are too expensive, or this one's expensive, but I'll start with the cheap one. And once my foot's in the door, you understand where I'm going with this. You're a marketing person, so
I do. And it's so interesting because I was, prepping for this and I was thinking about, what are my main competitors? And my main competitors are not cookie decorating classes. This is not a very common thing that you find. My main competitors are consumable team building events, right? So are there ways that I can break into those that I already have a skill in, right? Like not learning something new, but that I can, like, why would I not? And I think this is part of where I think I'm feeling too cautious of, oh, well, just because something sounds exciting, you don't necessarily want to dive down that path, but maybe it is time to add something else to the mix that would make people interested in doing something with me again.
It's interesting because, normally my byword is focus, pick this one thing and drill, drill, drill. But you've done that. You've spent 2 years now really understanding how to make cookie decorating work, and you're still getting better at it. Like you said, this discovery about the competition. So yes, you're going to keep on doing that. And the only reason I'm now saying maybe you begin thinking about the adjacencies is because you've brought up the fact that you're looking for ways to now get repeat business from customers you've already worked with. And I think that's the natural way to do it. Another one, of course, is to say, what other uses could someone use for the cookie thing? But I really don't think that's what people are thinking of you as. I'll throw out one more idea, and then we can kind of decide whether we want to explore more depth to either of them. Is you mentioned how interesting it was that the person who ends up being the decision maker tends to be, the department head. It's not human resources. It's nothing like that. But there may be, in fact, there may be pockets of companies for whom there is a central decision maker who is doing things for multiple groups, and selling to them allows you to continue doing it. I don't like the idea of birthday celebration of the week, because then you are the cookie company. And I shouldn't say that. If you want to be the cookie company, then you're going down the right path too, which is what are other ways I'm taking my expertise in delivering cookies, and how do I double down on that? Yeah, I do a birthday pack, and then we'll do kids' birthday parties. But it just feels like that's not kind of where you are going.
Yeah, I have never thought. I mean, I have thought of some wild stuff, and I have never thought to introduce other styles of team building events. I'm just so excited that almost like I'm being given permission to explore that, I have thought about like being able to do cupcake decorating, right? It's still in the bakery sphere and whatever, and I don't think that's a problem, but just the idea that this is not only something that should be, I have like a bulletin board in the back of my brain that I like pin ideas on, but like it's worth taking off the board, it's worth re-examining. And something that I sensed very early on in the business was, great, you're booking an event with me. I can tell that your team members love it, but I want to hear from them if they would do this again. So these essentially, I would send out a survey to all of the, to all the participants, and asking, if this were available with another theme, would you host it again? Would you be interested? And everyone was like, resounding yes, blah, blah, blah. But that I can still all do. But what if I can refer you to a different type of consumable event and not just hope that you're going to want to decorate cookies 3 times a year? Like, that's not realistic.
This whole sense of focus of adjacencies is that you're saying, okay, there's cookie team building, then there's team building, but there could be a more overlapping Venn diagram, which is a consumable team building or decorating team building. The definition for what goes on your bulletin board and actually gets used are ones that you A, have expertise in, and that B, the definition is someone who did your cookie one may do the other one. I mean, that's the trick. And you might say, this is kind of cool. So maybe I do, I can't even think of another one, cupcakes. And the question isn't, oh, that sounds interesting. The question is, does it work? Does someone who does a cookie 1 week come back 6 weeks later and do cupcakes? And then 6 weeks later, they do pizza. I mean, whatever. But the point is, what comes next? And I'll mention what I've mentioned a lot, which is ask your customers, what other team building events have you done in the last 2 years? What did people like? What worked? So that will give you lots of ideas about, they'll say, oh, we did this great one where we all went to the zoo. Well, I can't offer that. But if they go, we did this great one where someone mailed us this and we did the following, wow, I might be able to do that. And then I have permission. I'm in the door. Here's other things I can do for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I also think I would feel more excited to reach out to these people that I've built a basic relationship with if I can say, hey, also, there's this new cool thing that I'm offering, right? Like, does this interest you? I mean, that's a genuine question, right? And I think that's the problem with not wanting to feel spammy. I want this marketing to be genuine and that feels like it's coming from a very real place of wanting to share this with them.
I agree. And just as long as you keep in mind that the people did not hire you because they love cookies, and so you could tell them all the cookie stuff you're doing. They came to you because you did a great job building the team for them, and they want to work with you again to do that. The one interesting thing, which I just kind of recognize is a huge benefit you have, is you don't just have the name of the person who bought the package. You have the name of every single person who participated. That's unbelievably powerful in terms of the virality there and the terms of your ability to market out to those people. But if they'd like to run an event.
I do, but I'm very sensitive to these people were essentially obligated to give me their information. And so I don't love the idea of marketing to attendees who weren't so there have been attendees in that survey where I say, hey, would you like to sign up for my email list? And they do. And that's great. Those people, I'm happy to, to market to them all day long. But regardless, it is a great place to be. And it does mean that I can have conversations with these event planners, whoever is responsible, to get permission to send a final email to them. And maybe in that email, I give them an email sign up link, if you'd like to hear from me more or whatever.
So the box that I received, that's a standard. I didn't get a special Marc Randolph box, correct?
Correct. Well, there is a little note in there for you, but besides the note, that's correct. That is a standard. That actually is a duplicate of a set that went out to a company the other day.
Because just looking at this thing, and for the people who can't see what I'm doing, I'll try and describe it. So you got a package here of, it looks like 6 shortbready type cookies, and they're very cute. They're in the shape of I hope that Twitter is paying you a little commission for them being in the shape of the little Twitter logo here, little birds. I've got 3 little containers here of this shelf-stable frosting, a purple, white, and this beautiful blue. And then I've got my little packet someplace here, which I've lost already. Oh, here it is, with my applicator sticks. And maybe there's appears to be some frosting. Little jimmies floating around in there. But the reason and it's kind of nicely packaged, and this the kind of pink confetti stuff that's going to end up all over my rug. But what's missing is the cross-promotional things. And I understand the hesitancy about spamming people who were forced to give you their address so you could ship them a box of cookies. But certainly you could put a card in here that says, I'd love to stay in touch, sign up for the mailing list. You certainly could put a card in here that says, if you'd like to have an event like this for one of your groups, or a kids party, or a shower, whatever the case is, I would certainly not miss the opportunity, because as anyone knows, the moment you open a box and you see all the goodies inside is the moment of peak excitement. And that's the very, very, very best time to speak to someone, as opposed to trying to get their attention when they're dealing with someone else's product or someone else's service. So at the very least, you're missing an opportunity by not doing something in the box.
Great point. Absolutely.
So, Krystina, have I given you enough to kind of perhaps send you off in a slightly different direction? It sounds like maybe I gave you permission to take some of the crazy ideas you've already had and run with some of them.
You really have. I am so excited to see where I'm going to go from here. Okay, now there are other next steps, right? Like now there are new next steps. But before this call, the next step for the company is I'm moving into a permanent location where the kitchen and all the good stuff for production is going to be happening all together. But the next step is that I'm going to be hiring to be able to scale the business. And that is what it is. And I'm excited and nervous and all those normal feelings. That being said, I am curious your input. You have talked to a couple people on the podcast about the idea of funding, etc. I don't know that I'm at that kind of a place in the business. But I don't know. I suppose what I'm trying to ask you is, when do you know that you're at a place to consider looking into, even if it's through a loan, I'm applying to a couple grants, right? Or the idea of actual funding through investing. And, I've spoken to a couple very passionate business owners who are on either team A, which is hold on to your equity as long as you can, never give it up. You want to be very careful with it. And recently I've spoken to a few who are, let's say, if you're not willing to let it go, you're not willing to grow. So I'm just curious if you have a thought on that. I feel like I'm not quite there yet, especially with these new things I want to work on introducing. But do you have any thoughts?
Of course I do. I have thoughts on everything. So first of all, holding on to equity is ridiculous as a reason for not wanting to raise money. I mean, I would way rather have 50% of $1 billion business than 100% of $1 million business. I shouldn't say that. I said that is, depending upon where you sit on that continuum would answer the question. You might say, no, I'd rather stay very, very small and be beholden to no one. In that case, your answer is no, don't raise money. But for the most part, if you're looking to scale, if you're looking to grow, why not have someone help you? Why not have someone else along for the ride? And fine if they participate. It ends up being, using the accounting term, very accretive to you. The decision, I think, to make money is very, very different than that. First of all, do you know exactly what the money is meant to accomplish? And it really is it meant to discover something? Or is it meant to expand something that you already know? And it certainly sounds like it's to expand something you already know. So the more detailed question I would ask yourself is the lack of funding what is truly holding you back? If you said, for example, oh my gosh, I have got orders, I have interest, I could be doing 50 times as many of these parties, but right now, I've got my little kitchen in my apartment running 12 hours a day just to keep up with what I have. I can't do it. I need to expand. I have the demand. I just need the money to scale that way. Well, in that case, no brainer. Absolutely. That's one thing. If, however, you're saying, I suspect there might be more business out there. And so I want to raise money to do more marketing. I'm going to build this big kitchen and see if it comes. That's a lot scarier. And in fact, I would discourage that. I would at your stage be saying, if I have demand, as I've described before, if you've built this machine and you know that you put $1 in, turn the crank and $1.50 is going to come out, you're ready for that. And you may already have a working formula. But if you're uncertain and this money is just to figure it out or find out, wow, I would not want to have the obligation to the person you've taken the money from for it to work until you have some certainty about what's out there.
Totally makes sense. Thank you so much. That's the most clear response I've received and really helps me feel a lot more confident. So thank you.
Well, good. Don't be scared of it. And don't be scared of taking the risk. Just be really clear. The worst case is when someone goes, I have this great idea. So I need to raise $2 million to find out if my idea is any good. It's like, oh my God, if I had hair left, I'd pull it out right then and there. That's disastrous. If someone says, I tried this, I've done it myself, I've worked in my kitchen, I've figured it all out, and I've got the formula, I'm ready to now accelerate what I'm already doing and I already know works. That's an obvious one. And then things fall in between, and that's where it gets tricky.
Oh, great. Thank you.
It is my pleasure. So in a minute, I'm going to go back and finish this cookie, which I've so artfully decorated. I don't know. Do I get to wear my crown for this piece of art?
You sure do. That has earned it. You have officially won the cookie decorating extraordinaire.
Well, if I had a sound effects department, I would cue the trumpets or the dun 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 dun. There we go. There goes Marc, king of the cookie decorating. Well, Krystina, listen, thanks so much for coming on. Thanks for sending me the cookie kit. I happen to know someone downstairs is going to be very, very happy to see this. And I'm really eager to find out what happens. So let's maybe check back in again sometime in the coming year and hear how it went.
That sounds great, Marc. I love that idea. Thank you so much and enjoy all those cookies. And I look forward to reconnecting.
Good luck, Krystina. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, that was fun. Krystina got a few tips, which I hope can grow her business, and I got some tasty treats of my own. But listen, if you've got something cooking that you'd like to talk about, I'd love to have you on the show. Simply come to markrandolph.com/guest to apply. If you enjoy hearing about the topics in the show, why not read the book that inspired it? The paperback edition of That Will Never Work, The Birth of Netflix and the Amazing Life of an Idea is out now for purchase online and in all good bookstores.